Hello everybody! Today we're going to be talking about Bachmann's HO scale Daisy from the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe. Daisy is a diesel rail car painted green with yellow striping and red buffer beams. Daisy started out working the Farquhar branch line when she first arrived on Sodor, but was later moved over to the Harwick branch line where she provides passenger service while Ryan provides the freight service. Personality-wise, we'll let Daisy speak for herself. She describes herself as highly sprung and right up to date, which I think is just an obscure way to say she's awesome. When she first came to Sodor, she was a bit lazy, stubborn, and a self-absorbed diva. But after a stern heart-to-heart with the Fat Controller, which may have included the idea that lazy engines are sent away, she became a hard-working diesel with all the traits that you would want in a character. Trustworthiness, confidence, and authoritativeness. While she can express some irritability on occasion, and does have a bit of a superiority complex, she is good friends with the other engines on the line. Like all locomotives and rolling stock in the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe, Daisy is based on a real locomotive. She's based on the British Rails Class 101. The BR Class 101 is a DMMU, or Diesel Mechanical Multiple Unit. Let's break that down a bit. Diesel mechanical means that the diesel engine is connected directly to the wheels via a transmission or gearbox and drive shaft, similar to a car as opposed to, say, a diesel electric, where the diesel engine serves as a generator to power the electric motors attached to the wheels. Multiple unit means that these rail cars are self-propelled by their own diesel engines, but are typically configured in 2, 3, or 4 unit trains that can be controlled by a single driver. However, in the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends literature, Daisy is portrayed as a single-unit rail car. The BR Class 101s were produced from 1956 to 1960 by Metro Camel, or Camel. I'm not really quite sure how that's pronounced. I should mention that the BR Class 101 is often mentioned together with the Class 102. The only difference between these two classes is the type of engine used. So they're essentially the same rail car. While there were 527 Class 101s produced, there were 106 Class 102s produced. The Class 101s had a long, successful run, with the final Class 101 being withdrawn from service in 2003, with 41 of the railcars being preserved. Okay, let's take a detailed look at Bachmann's HO scale Daisy from the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe. Alright, so we'll start with a profile look at Daisy here. Daisy's about 9 inches long, by the way, and this is, as we mentioned earlier, HO scale. But the first thing that stands out about Daisy here is going to be that nice bright green color. And along with that color there, we've got the yellow striping here at the bottom, at the very top. And then you can see this, this little pinstriping that kind of comes up and then across the windows, not on the glass, but on the green part, and then back down in the front. Now Daisy has a bunch of windows here on the side. Now these aren't clear windows. This is kind of a silver plastic, or a plastic painted silver. That's to emulate like a an opaque window, so you can't really see into the car. Down below here in the black framing, you can see there's a few details stamped in here, like some suspension above the axles. You can see some fuel tank, maybe some air tanks here, and then some other compartments. So Daisy has 2 twin-axle trucks, as you can see here. 2 axles in the front, 2 axles in the back. And yeah, this is a pretty good-looking locomotive. Not a ton of detail, but a good amount of detail for the price point. I think all these Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends locomotives have a decent amount of detail for the price point. All right, let's give Daisy a turn. All right, looking straight into the back here, you can see that red buffer beam there on the bottom with the white painted pads. You can see some airline detail here, a utility hook, and the hook and loop coupler that's typical to these Bachmann HO scale Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe locomotives and rolling stock. You can see the pinstriping wraps right around the back, and then you get 3 windows, again silver painted, opaque, and then you've got these 3 lanterns here. Those aren't working lanterns. They're just plastic, things that are glued or fastened somehow to the back there. So they're not stickers, they're actually, plastic, with some dimensions there, with some thickness or whatever texture. So those are pretty good. And then you've got the little black placard. I think this is a placard to, that a streetcar would use to tell the public like what car it is, what line or route or whatever. But that's just a black piece of plastic there. I hope that's what it is. If I'm wrong about that, somebody can certainly correct me. And then you've got another light fixture up here just above that on the top. All right, let's give Daisy another turn. All right, so this side here is identical to the opposite side. You can see here from the profile, even though because Daisy has a face, she has a front. But if you look at these rail cars just from the side here, if you kind of forgot that she had a face for a second, they're pretty identical here as far as the front and the back. You can see there's a little bit of an angle here, which is kind of nice, a nice little detail there. But yeah, this side here is the exact same as the opposite side. I did mention earlier there are 4 doors on Daisy, and each door has some silver painted hardware on one side. So again, nice little detail there. All right, let's bring Daisy around full circle here. All right, so we always save the best for last on these Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends locomotives. We have the face end here, and so this is almost the exact as the opposite, of course, except for the face. But because there's a little face plate here, those 3 lanterns or 3 lamps or lights are not present here, but the top one's present. This light, the lights in the rear the lenses were painted red. This lens here is painted silver. My guess is that these cars are bidirectional and the lights will, light the appropriate color depending on which direction the locomotive is moving, or rail car in this case. But here you've got the same, otherwise same details here. You've got the red buffer beam with the white pads, a utility hook, again an air line, and then the hook and loop coupler, one at each end, and then that black plastic that I think is a placard, and then you can see the pinstriping wrapping around the front. As far as Daisy's face goes, definitely female gender here, I think. You've got the eyes with the eyelashes and the eyebrows there, and then you can see a little bit of blushing around the cheekbones there, and the lips in kind of a very, I guess I would just call it a light salmon color or something along those lines, but a little pinkish, I guess. But yeah, so there's a good look at Daisy from the front. Very, I think, true to the literature and the TV shows and things like that. So yeah, that's Daisy. So let's give Daisy one more spin so you can see Daisy from all sides one more time. All right, let's take a look at the top and the bottom. All right, we'll take a look at the top first. Just want to make sure the top is in focus here, but you can see here that Daisy's got a slight curve to the roof here on the top, and then you can see there's a bunch of panels here. These are silver, painted silver, and we've got what I can presume is vent work up here on the top, or air circulation fixtures up there on the top. So just to give you a look there, bunch of panels, bunch of ventilation, and then he's giving you some angles there so you can see the transition, the curvature and all that stuff of the roof. Get a good look at that. Not a ton to see up there, but just to give you a view. All right, let's take a look at the bottom. All right, looking at the bottom here, as usual, there's not a ton of modeling detail. And by modeling detail, I mean like what the real engine would look like the, like parts and so forth, and some details there. It's pretty basic under here. We've got the trucks with the motor compartments in there. Metal wheels, of course, for conductivity. You've got access screws for the trucks, and also screws if you need to replace the couplers. You've got the Bachmann logoing here on the bottom of the, in the center there below, like what would be the fuel tanks and some of those other compartments. There's usually a white part number stamped here too, and if we tilt the locomotive up a little bit, you can see, I can't get the whole number to display here, but if we turn the truck up a little bit, you'll see the part number right here. And he'll try to get that in the camera to get a good look, see if you can get that focused in. Yeah, they all have it, so sometimes it's like find Waldo to find the part number, but there it is right under the truck. But anyway, there's your look at the bottom. All right, so we also have 3 pieces of rolling stock that we'd like to review here along with our Daisy review. So we're going to start off here with our flat car that hauls paint barrels. So this flat car with the paint barrels is part of the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Bachmann HO collection from the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe. But it doesn't have any kind of Thomas markings, like anything to do with a Sodor paint company or anything like that. Everything is pretty well unmarked, except for the stickers that say paint. But this is a pretty cool car, very colorful. You can see here from the side that it's kind of a two-tone gray. The frame of the car or the body of the car is in a light gray, and then any kind of metal bracing or brackets, like these brackets that hold these uprights, or these corner bracings here that you see are in a darker gray. So there's a nice little contrast there. So you can see again a basic flat car, but it does have these posts, 4 posts, along each side. And then below here you can see there's not a ton of detail here, but it is still kind of a pretty cool car, but there's a little bit of spring suspension there on the trucks. This is all black molded plastic, and then from the profile you can see there's some buffers and the hook and loop couplers and so forth. So why don't we give this a spin? All right, looking from the back, you can see here that, you know, there's just the basic buffer posts here with the black, it's all painted black posts in the pads here. You've got the utility hook that we see on almost everything here with the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends stuff, and then hook and loop coupler in the back. So there's your view from the back. And then we'll just bring it around. Nice 3/4 view. And this side is identical to the opposite side. So everything else is kind of the same, both ends are the same, so we don't have to go into that. But let's remove the barrels and let's look at the top and the bottom. All right, looking from the top here, you can see again, there's some detail here, not a ton, but you can see that there's the kind of a planking effect here molded into the floor of the flat car here. You can see those vertical lines there that kind of emulate some planking. And then you've got 5 compartments here that are made up between these posts here. So you've got a smaller compartment on either end. Those hold like a bundle of 6 barrels, and then you've got 3 compartments in the middle there, and those hold bundles of 9 barrels. And we'll take a look at those in a second. He's moving the car around because he's trying to make sure that everything is focused in and all that, and that there's not too much light glare. So hopefully you'll get a good view of the top there. All right, let's take a look at the bottom. All right, looking at the bottom again, very, very basic. There's really no detail down here, but you can see here are the 2 trucks. You get some access screws there in case you need to do some repair work on those trucks. And then you've got a screw holding the coupler in case you need to do some work on that. Metal wheels. There's no conductivity needed for this. There's no electricity involved, but the metal wheels do add some heft to it and also sound nice on the rails. And then you've got the usual Bachmann logo and corporate stuff here stamped into the plastic, and then you've got that white part number there that's pretty typical of most of this stuff. All right, so as far as the barrels go, the barrels are a little tough to see here because we're white on white, but you can see here there's a bundle of 6, there's 2 of those, and then a bundle of 9, there's 3 of those, and then the little stickers that say paint on them. So red for red paint, yellow for yellow paint, green for green paint. And then as far as what those barrels look like here, they're not really individual barrels that are glued together. If you look underneath there, you'll see that it's just kind of one molded piece, and it's all hollow under there. So there's a bundle of 9 there, and then there's a bundle of 6. So yeah, so you can't separate those barrels. And then on the top, it's kind of cool here. They've got the little access port here. I don't know what that would be called on a barrel, spout, whatever. But that's where you would, put in either like a hand crank pump or something like that, or an electric pump or whatever to remove the contents, or tip it on its side to dump it out. But there's a nice little detail on there. All right, next up is a logging flat car, and this one here is marked with Sodor Logging Company. So we actually don't have to spend a ton of time on this because this is the exact same flat car as the one we just reviewed. It's got the gray, the two-tone gray here with the 4 posts on each side, but rather than paint, the cargo is 3 plastic logs. And those plastic logs are molded to look like, big, long tree trunks with some bark on it and things like that. So there was a little bit of detail there. And then the only difference between the car, this car, and the paint car, again, is that says Sodor Logging Company. But let's give this a quick spin just for the heck of it. Even though it's the same car, it'd be maybe nice to look at the logs from different angles. You can see they're just kind of plastic hollow things. Even the little holes at the end there are there, so that's not a great detail, but for the price point, I think that's what we're working with here. Definitely not a bad looking car. And just a quick note about the 2 flat cars that we've just seen, the paint flat car and then this logging flat car, is that the paint flat car with the paint drums on it is discontinued. You can't buy that anymore unless you buy it on a third party like eBay or Mercari or something like that if it's available there. But the logging flat car you can still buy. All right, and last up for our rolling stock is the water tanker here. Again, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Universe, Bachmann HO scale. So we've seen a ton of these kind of tank cars. So we've seen the fuel tank car, the tar, just a good variety of these. They're all the same except for the paint job. So here you can see, we don't probably, if you've seen these tank cars before in our videos or anybody else's videos, you'll know that they're all the same here. So we do really like these cars because these 2-axle kind of freight cars here are kind of cool because they do have a lot of detail molded into the plastic here. So you can see a lot of the suspension work down here by the wheels or by the axles, and you can see the brake mechanics. Now, none of this moves or operates, but as far as the visual detail, it's pretty cool. So yeah, so these are pretty nice to look at. So anyway, you got the black framing down here, and then you've got the blocking that, holds the tank up and keeps it from rolling, hypothetically. You've got the black strapping around here that, again, I imagine holds the tank to the, to the frame of the car. And then here you've got the spout at the top, the filler spout up there, or access port. And then the really, obviously the most conspicuous feature here, because it's a water car or water tank, is the blue color, nice blue color, and then the word water across it with the water droplet placards there, or paint job. So yeah, nice looking car. Again, kind of the same as the other tank cars, but it's the paint job and the fact that it's water that makes it unique. So why don't we just give it a turn here? And looking from the back here, you can see that there's this support up here that I imagine it tries to keep the tank from moving forward if the train comes to a sudden stop. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of weight in a real tanker of liquid. So I'm sure this is all to keep that tank stabilized. But it is a nice detail, and it does look nice on the car. You got the black buffers here, the black buffer pads and posts. Everything's black along the painted black here, and then you've got your utility hook, your hook and loop coupler. Let's bring it around full circle. There's 3/4 view there. And then you've got this, I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but you can see this kind of cross strapping here as well. This is probably, and then this kind of raised, this is all kind of molded into the plastic, but I imagine that those, in real life, those cables, they kind of look like cable-ish to me if I had to imagine what this looked like in real life. And those are probably there to keep the tank from moving back and forth on the truck. Just additional support here. So you've got these black straps holding it flush down, straight down onto the car or onto the frame, and then you've got these cablings here to keep it from shifting back and forth. That's kind of how I imagine that working. And then if you can see it here, just to the inside of these black straps, you can see some bolt work where these sections of tank might have been bolted together. So yeah, pretty cool detail there. All right, let's take a look at the top and the bottom. All right, looking at the top here, you can see again, you might be able to see those cross cables a little bit easier up here. You can see they kind of come from this side and wrap around the spout or the filler port there, and then on that side there, and works its way around. And then you can see the black strapping, and of course you can see that filler port, and you can see the little latch that would hold that filler port shut. None of this is operational. It's just molded into the plastic, but again, it's a good visual effect. So I think these tank cars probably are, in the trucks also, with the braking and all the detail on the frame, I think are probably the nicer looking, I think, of the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends rolling stock. All right, let's take a look at the bottom. All right, so no modeling detail down here. Again, the Bachmann stamping, white part number, metal wheels, sound nice on the track, and again, kind of give it a little bit of weight, a little bit of heft. Hook and loop coupler, and then some access screws in case you need to make some repairs. So just to give you a look at the bottom. All right, and just to drive the point home here as far as the tankers in the Thomas the Tank Engine Friends universe, Bachmann HO, is they're all the same. So you can see here, even though the paint jobs are different, like here you get the black strapping on the water tank, but it's not painted on the milk or on the fuel tanker. But you see all the details exactly the same, except for the paint job. But they are definitely nice looking pieces of rolling stock. So yeah. Anyway, so that does it for all 3 pieces of rolling stock that we are going to run with Daisy today. All right, so there you have it. Daisy from the Bachmann HO scale Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe, and 3 pieces of rolling stock: the log flat car, the paint drum flat car, and then the water tanker. Now, we've hit kind of a milestone here. This is the last of the Thomas stuff that we have to review. We've gone through all of our HO scale Thomas, we've gone through all of our G scale Thomas, and all of our N scale Thomas. So this will be the last video of Thomas reviews, that is, of rolling stock and locomotives. As we upgrade our HO layout, we may have more Thomas buildings and things like that to show. But this is it for the locomotives and rolling stock. Now, if Bachmann or anybody else puts out any new releases of Thomas-related stuff, we'll certainly pick those up and review them. But as of now, this is the last of the Thomas collection that we have. So yeah, let's get Daisy out on the layout and take her for a run with our 3 pieces of rolling stock.